Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Hopsworks 5-minute interviews. As you know, this is our humble attempt at trying to provide really great content for a community of machine learning and feature store professionals out there. Today, I've got a really great guest that I actually happened to stumble upon on the World Wide Web because of one of the talks that he did. I think it was at one of your meetups, and that is Fedor Bystrov. Hi, Fedor. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you, Rick, for having me.
Yeah, fantastic that you were able to make the time. Like I said, I reached out to you because of the talk that I found online about your experience with first your homegrown feature store, I think. But let's talk about that a little bit more. But first of all, who are you and what do you do? Could you explain that to our audience here?
Yeah, well, as you said, my name is Fedor. I work in Skyscanner. I'm in a MLOps team. I'm a software engineer. Yeah, I had like a long journey to become like a long journey into MLOps, to be honest.
Okay.
I studied physics. I worked as a software engineer in billing, in monetization, and payments in Revolut, and now I'm in Skyscanner and doing MLOps. And honestly, I get into the field by chance. I didn't plan it to do, but I got it. I had a chance, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, now I think it's very very great field of study of work. So I'm 100% into it. So yeah.
Definitely a hot field, right? I mean, every newspaper is full of machine learning these days.
Yeah, and for example, this models and stuff like OpenAI developed is just mind blowing. It motivates me as a people to work in the field more and put more effort in it. So yeah, it's amazing time to jump into the field.
That's clearly the case, yeah. So yeah, what do you do in the field of MLOps? I mean, I read that little article, I watched that video about you in your journey in the feature store space. But what are some of the things that you do in that field, and what are some of the big components that you work with on a day-to-day basis? Could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so in Skyscanner, my team manages the feature store. We wrote it ourselves, in Skyscanner. We have homegrown feature store and machine learning platform. Yeah, we developed it internally, from the ground up. It's one thing that we manage. Also, we manage deployment of models. Also, basically, all that MLOps stuff that is even there. So we manage deployment, monitoring of the models and everything. It's also very interesting topic, right? How to know when your model underperforms, how to deploy model, how to deliver it to market faster, and this kind of functionality is what our team manages in Skyscanner.
If I remember correctly from your video, the project that you've developed yourself is called Kaleidoscope, right? And it's based, around DynamoDB, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So we are using AWS, and we have pretty standard feature store architecture, offline store and online store. Offline is just S3 bucket and some SDKs on top of it, and online store is DynamoDB basically and microservice on top of it. And we have ETL jobs, pipelines that move data from offline to online and from online to offline as well. So yeah, it's cycle, but architecturally wise, it's pretty standard stuff.
Yep, I saw that. And then at the end of your presentation, you mentioned that you are considering, whether you can more integrate with the Databricks ecosystem, but that's still under investigation.
Yes. So, if you take a look at recent developments, into the field, into the market, for example, if you take a look at SageMaker, the way they deploy models, the way they deploy, the way they integrate models with feature store is a bit different from us. So what we do is basically each model is deployed into its own EC2 instance in Kubernetes, whereas AWS SageMaker deploys model into Lambda functions, right? If you take the most basic example of it, and you deploy it serverless, and you also if you want to integrate with feature store, you also deploy it to a serverless kind of way. You basically write a script, deploy it, and what we do is a bit different. We have model in EC2 instance in Kubernetes, and we have to deploy it and manage all EC2 instances ourselves. And integration with feature store is a bit different as well. In AWS way, it's model kind of calls feature store and enriches the data as it needed. In our case, we have a microservice that sits between caller and the model, and this microservice enriches it. And yeah, as you said, we are in my presentation, I mentioned that we are using Databricks, and Databricks provides some stuff kind of similar to what SageMaker provides. And it's always interesting to explore other ways of doing things. Maybe it will be easier for us because we will not for example, if we will use serverless Lambda functions, right, to deploy models. It means we don't need to manage like EC2 instances, like Kubernetes and everything. It like simplifies our infrastructure a lot, and maybe we can put more effort into other areas, for example, like alerting, monitoring of the models, right? So yeah, it's always important to like research the field around you, so you're like efficient.
So maybe I ask this question to everyone that comes on to this these 5-minute interviews. Why do you think this is such an interesting field? You said you happened to stumble into it by accident, but why do you think it's so interesting? Well,
yeah. Also, for me, it's interesting because it's like rapidly developing field. It's new, and like in software engineering, it's been like for like 40 years, and you can like do something, and there will be like good practices, industry standards in like Kubernetes, for example, right? And in MLOps, in machine learning, there is not a lot of such things. It's only develops right now, and like everyone can participate in the development and provide like a great input into it, right? And for me, it's like a way of like doing something meaningful for others. I want to like be part of community. I want to contribute it, and yeah, for me, it's like it's a field of endless opportunities.
It's true, isn't it? There's so much stuff evolving so quickly. I mean, like 2 years ago, no one even knew what large language models were all about, and now it's on every common newspaper, so to speak. It's quite interesting. Cool. Hey, Fedor, we try to keep these things quite short. So I'm going to ask you my final question, which is, where do you think people should go? What was like a resource that you thought was super interesting, that helped you a lot, that you thought people should really take a look at in order to get into this field and move forward? Is there anything that comes to mind there?
Yeah, I think the great thing you can do, you can join like your local MLOps meetups. We organize meetups in Scotland and Edinburgh. There will be like meetups soon, like in 25th of January. You can join meetups in London as well, and I bet like in other cities in Europe you can find the meetups similar. So it's always good to join it. Maybe not as listen, but also share your experience if you're already working in the field. So it's like, for me, it's like very interesting to join it and talk to other like engineers working like on similar problems, but like from a different perspective. And like in terms of recommending, like I can recommend like one book. It's not really about MLOps, but it's like very close to it. It's called DevOps Handbook, and it's really high level, but it lays like a foundation and like baseline for like MLOps, because a lot of things there are like in DevOps you can reuse in MLOps, and in DevOps field were like existed for longer, and it has actually good practices, and like there are like a lot of people with experience who work like in a big company. So yeah, it is good read.
So you can basically transfer some of the stuff that people have been doing in DevOps to MLOps, and advance the field that way. That's great. That's fantastic. If you have a link, we'll obviously put that in the show notes that goes with this publication as well. So that's fantastic. Hey, Fedor, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm going to wrap up here. It's been great talking to you. I really appreciate it. Good luck with your future projects at Skyscanner, and yeah, maybe I'll bump into you at one of the meetups. That would be great.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.